the time of recording, we are now less than 4 months away from Gran Turismo 7's release. The anticipation is definitely building, as attention turns towards the exciting new and returning features the game will launch with. We made a video a while ago talking about what we knew about the game so far, and in that video I talked about the dynamic weather system returning to the series, as well as an upgraded damage model. This is before you factor in the dynamic weather system and new damage model being added for next year's release. These were both pretty big deals when they were announced, so I thought I'd better come back and go into a little more depth about what exactly is new or returning and how it will affect the game. I'm Mark from Racing Games, and today I'm here to talk about the dynamic weather and new damage model coming to Gran Turismo 7. This might sound like an odd thing to say, but we like wet races here at Racing Games, or at least races with rain in at some point. Formula 1 alone this year has proved that a damp track can liven up even the most boring of races, with the Hungarian Grand Prix having one of the most chaotic starts in recent years, with the battering Valtteri Bottas nearly wiping out half the grid on the first corner alone. And let's not forget how rain turned the Russian Grand Prix from a meh race into an OMG race. It's safe to say then that a wet track is something we all at some point want to see in a racing game. Gran Turismo 6 had just that. Gran Turismo Sport, however, lost dynamic weather. Weather remained constant throughout the race. Sure, you could start a race at the Red Bull Ring in the pouring rain, but don't expect to pit for slicks, as it would rain for the entire race. Polyphony tried to compensate for this by adding in different times of day, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't the same. Pun fully intended, by the way. Thankfully, Gran Turismo 7 is bringing back dynamic weather, meaning once again drivers will be on their toes when it comes to the changing conditions. We're not entirely sure yet how far Polyphony will take dynamic weather, but I for one would love to see unusual weather phenomena as I'm driving around various tracks. Imagine rain in the desert, or even snow in the desert for that matter. Suddenly an endurance race can flip on its head as the heavens open, and if you're caught out on a longer circuit, this could make or break your race. We've seen Spa become a literal spa this year already. Now imagine coming around Stavolo only to find out it's raining heavily in the pits. Again, we don't know yet if sections of the track will be affected more than others, so take all this with a pinch of salt. The only thing we do know is that dynamic weather was greatly missed in Gran Turismo Sport, so to see it making a welcome return in GT7 warms our hearts and makes us even more hyped for March. This is definitely a weird thing to say, but I like it when my car takes damage in a racing game. Don't get me wrong, it can be incredibly frustrating to lose your front wing in F1 2021, or in my case my entire front end, but at the same time it gives you an extra element of the game. Crashes mean something. You can't just use the wall to get around that tricky corner, as the damage outweighs the rewards. So to say the previous damage models in Gran Turismo have been disappointing is a little bit of an understatement. For a game billed as the real driving simulator, it takes you out of the moment to see your car bounce off the barriers without so much as a scratch. It's fair to say that Gran Turismo games haven't had a damage model in the past. For some reason, Polyphony has never implemented one, even for Gran Turismo Sport. This is probably down to the developers wanting to focus on other areas of the simulation, such as the physics model. In fairness, that has paid off, as Gran Turismo has consistently had the most impressive physics model in sim racing for decades now. Whilst the physics model is the best around, this lack of a damage model really does hurt Gran Turismo's credibility. This is especially true when you consider that series like Forza and even Need for Speed have decent damage models. Now again, we don't know the exact reason as to why the damage model has been lacking, but it could be something to do with car manufacturers not wanting their prized vehicles to be shown getting dented or destroyed in a high-speed impact. The reasoning is simple as well. You don't want your cars to be perceived as structurally weak or dangerous, and in pretty much every case, I'd say that's fair enough. We've seen a similar thing in F1 2021, where the game launched with a more advanced damage model than the one seen now, only to be met with complaints from the companies who have their names on the bodywork you just ripped off crashing at the castle section in Baku, again. So you can see why Polyphony might have been reluctant to add damage models in the past. especially when it came time to renew vehicle licenses. Another problem with enabling damage is related to longer races or endurance races. If you're nearing the end of an endurance race and you spin out, wrecking or seriously damaging your car, your frustration would be through the roof. Some would say that you deserve that. A small lapse in concentration has consequences after all, but that kind of incident seriously hurts the accessibility of Gran Turismo. Now you could limit the damage to visual only, but you'd run into that realism issue again. It really is a fine line the developers tread. Make the game too realistic and it loses its appeal to casual racers. Make it too arcade-like and you lose the hardcore sim racers. So how have Polyphony solved this issue? Gran Turismo creator Kazunori Yamauchi has been a goldmine of information on Gran Turismo 7. Yamauchi has spoken to the fans about all things Gran Turismo and has been our main source of information when it comes to Gran Turismo 7. However, on this subject, the Polyphony CEO has only stated that the damage will be upgraded when compared to Gran Turismo Sport. We didn't see any damage featured in the trailer either, so there's not a lot to go on here. We're hoping that this upgrade is a significant one though, so that we'll be able to race more on the edge of our seats going forward. Overall, Gran Turismo 7 is shaping up to be a really solid racing game. We've already got a fair idea of which tracks we'll be able to drive, as well as which vehicles we'll be driving on them with, so to find out more information on gameplay features such as dynamic weather and damage models only serves to build more excitement for the game's launch. It's good to see the developers adding features back in that were missing from Gran Turismo Sport, and it's even better to see them working on all new features that will transform the series for the better. Both of these features add realism to the game that has been missing from past entries in the series, and will help reinstate Gran Turismo as the true real driving simulator. As I said earlier, the developers are treading a fine line, but I believe this is the best compromise. Possibly adding a toggle switch to both weather and damage in the settings will help keep the casual racers happy, whilst providing a more realistic experience for the sim racing community. As for how to keep the manufacturers happy with a damage model that might see their cars getting beaten up, I'm glad that's not my problem to solve. For now though, that's all we know about these features, but as any new developments happen, we'll be sure to keep you all updated. I've been Mark from Racing Games, and thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and now I'm off to figure out a way to make it snow in Qatar for the race this week. That'll make for a very interesting Grand Prix.